This podcast is for us to dive into a particular season. So, this series is going to be all about midlife amazing entrepreneurs talking about the everyday things that are going on in their lives. And really, it's a coffee chat. So, all of you and us together. Our first guest of the series is actually Raquel. And so let me share a little bit about Raquel and then I'll have her continue on. So, Dr. Raquel Corona is a spiritual guide, a weaver of words and worlds, and the creatrix of Truly Your Salud. With nearly 2 decades of experience in writing and higher education, she helps women cut through the world's noise so they could finally hear the voice within. And you can find her at trulyyoursalud.com. Hello, Raquel. It's so lovely to have
Hi,
you.
Sora. That's how you know I'm a millennial because I wave every time someone says hi on camera, BT dubs.
I didn't actually realize that was a millennial trait, by the
Or
way.
maybe it's like a pandemic Zoom thing.
I mean, it could be either or the both ands. Who knows?
Yes, all of it.
And your wave is this? Oh, I feel like my wave is this.
Yes, that I see. Yes.
Now I need all of my viewers and all of your viewers to share with us what kind of wave they have because I am
Yes.
very curious.
Yes.
Okay, so as we start the convo, I'm really curious around at this moment in time, are there any breadcrumbs you're following? And you may not really know exactly what that means, but hence why you're following the breadcrumb. But I'm just curious.
Mm, I think the one that has been on my heart is this journey of turning 40 and not yet having children, but being surrounded by people who do. And wondering how different our lives. It's like that Robert Frost poem, like two roads diverge in a forest. And then wondering when it comes back together, um, and still being there, but also knowing I don't have access to an experience that they're undergoing and not really knowing what to ask for, how to be there, all that stuff in a season that is tricky. Um, yeah. And also because of my studies, I know women have so much that they're navigating. Last thing I wanna do is ask for more when the world is already having these grandiose expectations of them, as mothers and sisters and daughters, and it's just yeah, where's, the nugget for heart-to-heart connection in the midst of, a busy life with caring for littles?
Yeah. Do
Mm,
you find from a clarifying perspective, because I feel like there's so much I can share from a personal
mhm.
place with that too. Do you find that there is your curiosity, and it could be all of them, but your curiosity at the moment is around how do I engage with dear friends of mine that are in motherhood when I am not? Is it I'm in a place in my life right now where I am curious around the 2 roads I could have taken or still can take, and I'm still wondering what they are? Yeah, I'm just curious around what's alive in you because all of those things are things that I have thought about and still have to sometimes learn to lay to rest what path was not in front of me.
Mm. Yeah, when you gave me those options, the second one lit up more so, in me of, what does which I think is the work I've done in the business. What does my path look like now? Because I was on this path for a very long time and I am here and I finally found something I really enjoy doing. And I'm like, oh, what does life look like now that I am looking beyond just my work life for fulfillment? It's very different. And that question of does that include being a parent, family? And with that, there's the tied up inner child that's I just want one-on-one time with you. Um And that's the friend part that I'm I think I can always interact with you. I can be I can even take care of children. I can do it all. But to me, I'm but my love language is quality time. Like, I just want me and you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's layers to that, right? So
Yeah.
you've got the I want quality time with you, my friend,
Mhm.
who may have an experience that I currently do not have, which
Mhm.
is children. And yes, I love your children. I can hang out with them. I have like nieces of my own, all of that, right? And you're like, yeah, but
Mhm.
my love language, quality time, you and I, come on, let's
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I heard you say something that I thought was really interesting because that's a very similar reflection to myself that others may or may not resonate with, which is that you had certain paths that you were taking and you were learning what that meant for yourself, predominantly potentially in your career, right? So you got a doctorate, you were looking at your career and the trajectory of that versus maybe the first priority being, let's say, family or children.
Oh,
And for
yeah.
because for me, and I don't wanna put words in your mouth, so you tell me if that's correct. For me, I find that that was the case for me. In the back of my mind, I, in some ways, assumed, yes, I would have a family and children. But on the other hand, I was like, it doesn't matter necessarily to me that being the first thing. Marriage, kids, all of that wasn't my priority. My priority was traveling the world, exploring new things, learning about myself, while also being successful, quote, in my career because that's what I believed my parents wanted first and foremost from me.
Mhm.
And then later, like you, I was like, "Oh, I feel really fulfilled with what I do." So now I get to look at some areas within myself around, do I feel fulfilled in this area or not? And the context of society's requirements, and do I actually want that or not?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. When you said all that, my head was tingling in good ways because it's tough too because I don't know about you. You made the transition into entrepreneurship a while ago, but it's almost like a portal that's like asking me like, "Wow, if you enjoy what you do for a living, what kind of life are you building here?" Versus the way that we're sort of entrenched in society is like you work and you have family and you do this versus the way I'm thinking about it is now is like, "Oh, I get to like choose." Um, because it feels good to go to work and I'm not tired all the time and I feel fulfilled and I'm like, "Oh, wow, now I have like space to be like, oh, what is important to me?" It feels like a really great I'm not gonna call it existential crisis, but like a great question of like the times. I'm like, "Oh, I have choices." Yeah.
I love that. I'm getting shivers in regards to if we think about ourselves in midlife, that the question we potentially could pose to ourselves with also acknowledging that there are both ands of people having different lived experiences for sure. But we coming to a place now in our life to say what fulfills us, what brings us our joy, and having agency in making certain choices that we might want to make. Sometimes that might be from a spiritual, energetic mindset. It could be an action because we have some resources. It depends. But we get to create from a place of now knowing more about ourselves and the sense of fulfillment. I love that word. And I wonder if that is one of our guiding kind of forces as we shift, right? Like 40 onward, this place of fulfillment versus fulfilling someone else's expectations.
Mhm.
It's what fills us and fills our well.
Mhm. And thinking about it holistically, because sometimes we're just so I always called it like a horse with like blinders on. I'm like, "This is the thing." When I tinker in my mind, it was like, I tinker enough with this and I figure it out, all of it out. All the other things fall in line or something, like something magical will happen over there, even though I'm not doing anything, um, in that facet of my life to dictate that something would happen over there. That was just like it. Yeah.
Um, I know that you, from a devoted archetypal standpoint, right? So in my work, I have these four devoted archetypes, and they're compassionate healer, prolific alchemist, enchanting weaver, and sovereign warrior. And we've spoken a lot about this. So I will ask you, what are you, so that you can voice it.
I was gonna say, I'm a prolific alchemist, and I've taken the quiz several times, hoping that it would change, because when you take other people's quizzes, sometimes it changes.
Yeah.
And I'm a smart girl, I wasn't, like, intentionally messing with the quiz here. I was just like, "Oh, it's been a few months, maybe I'm different now because 'cause I'm in a different, I don't know, part of my spiritual journey. I could be something different." Um, and I'm never anything different between those folks.
Which is so and what's more interesting to me is how your feels around it, right?
Yeah,
More than even
yeah,
whether or not it will or will not change.
yeah,
And so with you being a prolific alchemist, which I find that you also lovingly enjoy owning about yourself.
I guess, maybe.
So one of the things that I find that potentially resonates with prolific alchemists, and so you let me know if this feels true for you, is um, I really find that prolific alchemists honor or on a journey of learning about fulfillment through creativity.
Yeah, that's the jam right there.
That there's an essence to this idea of not just logic and comprehending and seeing how things connect, but the reason being is they feel and they see life as so creative that it has so much color and nuance and vibrations and tones and flares. And so the connections you're trying to make is from this place of incredible reverence to the fact that we're living this life. And so you might shift and change both yourself internally, externally, locations, careers, offers, different things like that, because you're following that whim of trying to capture and catch the essence of this like new evolution of creativity that you see.
Yeah, and you remind me, like, that's just who I am, and, the brain, like, slows down that process, like,
Tell
so
me more.
quickly.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I
How
went
does
on
it
my
show up
walk
for you?
before this interview, and I was like I had this moment, I went into my heart space, and I was there, and I went for my walk, and I was like, all I wanted to do was, like, have live conversations with other women in, like, a virtual sort of conference on Zoom for, like, 2 to 3 hours, and I think you know from our last conversation in Lush, I was like, "I wanna have a summit," and where did my brain go? It went to, like, 500, and, like, we gotta wait. Uh-oh. Sorry, and we gotta wait until this time, and I have to, like, make it this production, and it becomes this whole thing versus my creative spirit is just saying, invite a couple people to a conversation, have some fun, and host an event during your favorite time of year, and then let it go. You know what I mean? Like, it's so that's, like, an example that I had on my walk literally 10 minutes before I got on this call with you in this interview because I was just like, "This is what I do." Like, this is like, I have so many things that come to me, but then I'm like, "Oh, no." It's sort of like, because you gave me my yummy I forget what you call it, the blueprint. And it's like, that's what happens. It's like you just get caught up in, like, all the research, who I can hire, what am I gonna do, how many steps, how far like, all of it.
So, I love that aspect about Prolific Alchemist because it's a little different than Enchanting Weavers in the fact of you're not going to the future simply because you're already dreaming up of like the most delicious experience from this bird's eye view only of it. Your love and almost love language is taking the biggest aspect and breaking it down to see how it could be possible. Like, you wanna get into the nitty-gritty and be like, "These are who I would hire. This is what it would look like. This is the systems I would wanna build,
Mhm.
and these are the resources I need," right? And so
Yep. Mhm.
and so therefore I love that because that has real value inside of your business and inside of a group container with other people who doesn't have that lens, right? So you get to show up and support your colleagues by saying, "Whoa, yes, and these are little the pieces that you might need." And so I love embracing you in that piece because I love the building part of it too, but just not necessarily all the nitty-gritty of the action towards it, which you too might feel, as well. But also recognizing if creativity honors your desire to have niggles, how do we take the biggest vision and the steps to it, but break it down into something that is satisfying and satiating right now for you? And I see you really learning that for yourself. Hence, again, for you today, the through line seems to be the word fulfillment. These are ways to feel full.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And I appreciate you reflecting to me that this has wonderful impact for people around me. It reminds me of a scene I had in the storage space with my partner. And we show up and I'm like, I'm doing the best I can, but storage space looking funky, you know? And then the person comes in behind us and his storage space is like next to my car because it's outside and it is just full of stuff. It is not there aren't things in boxes or containers. And it's just like a moment, like a breadcrumb. I was like, "Girl, you need to relax." Because you laid out um the storage space very specifically and you know what area this is in and that is in. And you're still hearing like telling yourself it's not enough. And my partner looks at me, he's like, "You're yep, I feel good. You're pretty organized." So when you say that, it just reminds me like, oh yes, other people benefit from this. Yeah.
Yes, other people do benefit from
Mhm.
this. And, I know how much you love community and conversations with others. And I
Mhm.
find that we forget how we can step into other communities ourselves and add value in this way, that your value is that. And I love the breadcrumb, even in that story of with the context for everyone, Raquel was moving, so she has to put certain things in storage.
Yep.
And so the fact that you mapped out, planned, have boxes, know the different areas probably in the storage unit as to what's going to be there. And you're like, this isn't enough. We've got too much stuff. This isn't going to work. And then the person next to you opens their storage and there's no rhyme or reason. And you're like, oh, I think I'm pretty good right now. Look
And the
at
beauty of it is like it worked for them because they opened it 2 seconds later. They took out 2 fishing poles and they were gone. And I was like, oh, okay. Um,
and there's added value to their way, right?
exactly. I was like, I guess it works for somebody over there. Because they
Not
got in
every
and they
pair
got
of
out.
boxes is a
So
good idea, right? Because then you have to go through an hour of boxes to find
yeah,
the thing.
yeah, yep, yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
Okay, so speaking of, because you've been in the move, but that might not be the
Mhm.
answer to the question, but currently in midlife, what is one tension that you're really feeling, from a personal space and or a business space, but that we can relate to at this moment in time?
I think like trusting I think it goes back to that conversation about like I have a sense of what I want to create, but intuitively, like there'll be moments in the business where like I'll be like, yes, let's just do this. And then there's like a questioning of it and I don't follow through or I try to figure out how to get permission to do something. Um, because I don't trust that, right? Like for instance, like I really want to have a summit, but I'm like, but I don't want to have a summit for this offer. But I'm like, oh, what do I do then? Like intuitively, I'm like, what do I like the messages come in and sometimes it's like very hard for me to be like, what do I do with this then? In the context of other things. And that feels really frustrating, honestly, sometimes.
Ooh, I love that. So what you're saying is the tension that you're noticing is that you can listen more. You understand when there's something that's coming in that you are being asked to consider doing, but it doesn't quote fit in the puzzle of what you currently have. And so you wonder, what do I do with this? And you want to kind of jam it in somewhere, but you are now more apt to trust that that's not necessarily the way. So you're like, yes, I'm feeling called to a summit, but I don't know why or how or when or what this is going to look like and what this is for.
Mhm.
And so you feel a bit uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I I've navigated institutional structures for like 2 decades. So it's like, you do this thing, you get this thing, you move on. And business is like the opposite. And I have like the least amount of patience sometimes of like, I have to like see this through. You can't just do things once. And think like it's complete in some way. And I love the process of refinement when it comes to writing, but I think that's a process in the business that I think I'm still trying to get myself into because I see like, oh, I do something, it should be an accomplishment. Right?
Mm.
So they're like school teaches us, like you do this thing, you get a grade, like. Um, and often in school you don't redo stuff. I mean, very few professors I know let people redo stuff. You can, but you know, and if you do, there are consequences to redoing a course, right? People don't pay for it. Like there's all these other things, right?
Right.
But business works
Ooh,
so differently.
that is interesting in regards to even if we think about potentially the fields of academia. If you've done something, let's say research, you don't go back and redo it, do you?
they don't go back and redo it. They'll, like, take it, refine it to publish it.
Right,
But I
but
never
they're not gonna take it and say, "Just kidding. Let me change some things around here,"
no, I
because that would minimize their level of, let's say, authority in that field,
mhm.
correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm curious about that in regards to our midlife because I wonder sometimes, and people could be in different schools of thoughts around this, that in some ways we're more apt to be like, F it, we're just gonna be messy, quote. But on the other hand, there's this feeling of we're more, quote, mature and wise. So the idea of being a beginner or iterating or messing up might feel that much more stretchier, whether it's conscious or unconscious. So you're supposed to show up in a certain way. You're not supposed to ask for the help of I don't know because now you've become a certain age. So I'm curious around, but yet people speak about trying things and stretching, but then also you're mature and you should know your wisdom. And so how does that land for you when you consider that for yourself?
It's tricky because I think that's what leads me to believe that, like, I should be farther along in business is, like, I'm a smart girl. I always say, I was like, "Getting these degrees was harder than half the stuff I've done in this business." I hate to be an ass. Like, I just and it's probably just because I feel like I'm on this soul line path, so it's, like, very simple. So half the time, like, "Girl, this ain't that hard. What's wrong with you?" You know, like, that's, like, the thought because it's just such a different, more easeful path than any other path I've taken career-wise. Um, and so it bleeds in these ways that doesn't allow me to be a beginner, right? And it's yeah, it's heart-wrenching because I like the being at the beginning of something, but when you place a lot of, I think, when you place a lot of time and devotion into something that you love, you wanna, like, sorta see it grow in a way. Um, and when it doesn't happen, it's like you think it's you when there's, like, so many other factors.
Yeah, there are so many other factors, but I get it. So for there's this sense of we have done other things in our life that are freaking hard. We have all moved through things where if people are the stories, they would be like, wow. And so when you contextualize that to your business and what you said was, this is heart centered. This is my soul work. It's quite aligned with me. It's joyful in many ways. So it shouldn't be this freaking hard for me to grow it because it's me showing up and being of service, right?
Yeah.
So when we think about it that way, then we see sometimes our personal limitations that we put on ourselves
Mhm.
that makes it harder because we were able to do this over here. So why in the world do we keep ourselves stuck over here when this is our soul work? And yet also we care so much. But it is a mind F when we look at it in that way, for sure.
Yeah.
And I also believe that in our midlife, our capacity in regards to our energy, our BS barometer,
That's exactly what I was gonna say. The problem
right?
is, like, I don't got the energy though.
No.
And it's like, doesn't feel fair. I'm like, "Finally, I wanna do this thing," but I'm like, "But I'm tired right now though."
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And yeah, that's the conversation I find that I just would love for us to continue to have with grace, which is why I believe being more in a communal space with each other,
Yeah.
right? Where we get to be like, I'm tired. And another person being like, I've got you. Number one, like send me the link so I can come. And let's exchange even economically in this way. But also let me help you this week by sharing it out with some people. Or, oh, you want
Or,
to
like, what I
play?
love too about working with you um, is, like, you can ask for help and be like, "This isn't the capacity level at which I have right now." Like, so what how do I accomplish this with the energetic capacity I have? Um, and I think it's not always easy to find mentors who are, like, willing to sit there and be like, "Okay, this is what you have. So, like, these are the possibilities." Versus, like and then you ask, like, "What season are you in?" Right? Like, are we in the season of, like, we're going in? Right? Because even when I told you about the summit, you're like, "It's gonna be hard, Raquel, but you can push through, but you gotta know you're gonna be pushing, right? Because you take on a lot." And I was like, "You're right." Um, so it's just I think that's a beautiful part of also, like, asking for help in a way that, like, contextualizes what you're actually able to do and what you want to do, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I find I had to learn that skill which is to, when asking for help, to be able to relay the message around where am I at this moment? What feels limiting to me? What is my energy level and my season? What do I want to see happen? What looks realistic? What are some choices I could receive that I can then make a choice from? That might be vastly
Mm.
different, but at least it sparks something within me.
The
And it
best part of that is the
Yeah,
end where you're like, where I get to choose which one. And I'm like, that's the part that I struggle with sometimes. I'm like, "Oh, but you gave me all the things. I didn't know I could choose." You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like being in that sovereign place is really powerful instead of like being like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do a few and then feel bad I didn't do the others," rather just be like, "No, that was that person's job was to give me all the options." My job was to be like, "Oh, which one is best suited?" And it takes a while to feel into that because I think based on the relationship you have with the person that you hire, it gets quite difficult. Like, even you, I feel I've spent a lot of time trying to, like, impress mentors because I'm like, "Oh, no, I can't let you see me like this." And that's not just you, it's like, it's training of years, and then being like, "Oh, okay." But I think what you do that makes it easier too is that, like, you share your season, and you share where you're at, and you let us, like, witness you even as you might not be at, like, top-notch Sora, but you show up. Like, I think I've always said this to you, like, even if I can sense that you're going through a moment in your life, like, there is no difference in your delivery of what you give a client, which is, like, really, I think, kind of beautiful. But
thank you, thank you.
yeah, yeah,
And you all usually know that there's stuff happening.
yeah. Well,
I
you
don't
let us
hide
in,
that, but
but
I
yeah,
do let you in
yeah.
on what's going on, and
Mhm.
you're right in the fact that it gives me life. So in the midst of things that are happening, when I get to show up, same for you probably with your
Oh,
client.
yeah. I was like, "You said the thing that makes it feel fulfilling." It's like that I forget that I'm like you're like, "Go get a client, Raquel," and I'm like, "Right," so that I can gather energy so I can feel like I'm in my purpose and I'm actually helping some rather than, like, twirling around about an email. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
Yeah.
exactly, that is
Yeah.
it. Once we get back into the thing that we are
Mhm.
building a business around,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
realize why we love it and why we're so freaking good at it, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden everything else feels a lot easier. Yes,
It does.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel
I
that.
find that potentially in our midlife, we're faster in that. If we allow it, our ability to be like, "Oh, look at me. I went back to this old me." I quickly can kind of catapult myself back in to
Yeah.
where I need to be from that more healed version of me, and then we can move forward. So there's always going to be that pendulum swing, but I do
Yeah.
find that it's a faster, kind of more epically great ride up, and then you land back where you're supposed to.
Yeah. You remind me of that moment I had on Monday. I was, like, stomping through my pond park, upset about something.
Do you even remember what it was?
Yeah, my home
Okay, okay,
situation.
good.
It's a
You don't
smaller
need to
it's a
listen.
smaller space that I'm trying to adjust, and I'm, like, not having it, and then today I go out and I'm like, "Do, do, 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 do. Oh, there's a black duck in the pond," and I take a picture, I'm like, "Wow, Raquel, this is a very different human than the one on Monday morning stomping around, upset about God." Uh, yeah, yeah,
I love that. Okay, so everyone's job today is to go walk somewhere, and if you need to stomp, go ahead and stomp around and then go back a couple days later,
yeah.
and see the shift, or go ahead and go to a local pond or something and find some ducks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd never seen a black duck here, so I was excited. I was like, "Ooh."
I don't believe I ever have either. I've
Yeah,
seen brown ducks and other just I'm not sure
yeah,
I've seen a black duck before.
yeah, Daffy was up in there. I took a picture, I'll have to send it to you.
Seriously,
I was like,
please.
"Today, Daffy? Okay, happy hump day."
Oh my gosh, that is so good. Okay, so lastly, this is so random, but I read your email today, and I know
Oh,
that you recently went to watch, Odyssey,
yeah.
and you recommended a book. I
Mhm,
wanna know more about this book because I'm so
mm,
excited to listen to it as
mhm.
an audio,
Oh,
but
they have it on audio? I was
they
thinking about you.
don't.
They don't.
They don't.
Yeah, it's so good.
But tell me why you love
Yeah,
this book and give everyone some context because
yeah.
I know that you love reading
Yeah.
and knowing that you help creators, but also those who write and are
Mhm.
writers. Tell me a little bit about this book.
Well, it's so funny you asked me this question. The moment you're like, "I wanna talk about this email," I was like, "Do you know how long it took me to hit send on that email?" And the
It was
email was
a
just
really
a
good email.
really? Like, I think because my heart was like, today's Mary Magdalene feast day, my heart is, like, all, like, a flubber, and I wrote this thing in, like, 20 minutes, and I was like, "Oh, no, I can't share this." Like, I look like a total dweeb nerd that is, like, geeking out on the thing I love.
But this felt like the fullest expression of Raquel.
Oh,
Like,
really?
I was like, "This is Raquel."
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks for the feedback because it was now you help me understand why it was so hard to hit send because I was like, "Oh, this is just so me." I'm, like, geeking out right now. So,
It
anyway, The
was so
Odyssey is
cute.
amazing as a
That's why
movie.
I loved it. Okay, keep
Oh,
going.
really?
Honest I really wanna
Oh,
watch this. I'm watching it this weekend.
okay.
Tell me all the things. Mhm.
Um, it's a 3-hour movie, so you better go to the bathroom before you sit through it. It
Oh,
doesn't feel like a
the
3-hour
puppies
movie.
are gonna have to go to the bathroom before we leave, by the way,
Oh
that
my
means.
oh my goodness gracious. Yes, but it didn't feel like a 3-hour movie. That is for sure. Um, Cassandra is this book written by Krista Wolf, and it's another, like, everybody's heard of, like, the Odyssey, the Iliad as, like, stories of the Trojan War. But I took this class in my master's program with this woman who presented alternative texts in alignment with it. And one of them, when I was sitting in the movie theater, before the movie started, I was like, they need to do a movie on Cassandra. I want to see women in the aftermath of war and what happens as they get exchanged as property and as, like, villages and stuff are pillaged. Like, that's the story, because, like, I'm such a feminist scholar, like, yes. And so the story, I don't actually remember much of Cassandra, but I remember the power of Cassandra because she is the king of Troy's daughter. And she's actually, there's something that happens to her. She's a prophetess. So, like, she has this gift, but she's been, like, cursed that nobody believes her, which is fascinating and also, all tied up in, like, historical yummy good stuff. That's complex. And basically she's there at the end of the Trojan War. That's how the book begins. And you get to see what the war looks like from her perspective. Like, she goes back in time and then she also tells you what's happening in time. I can't tell you I remember the details, but I was angry because I was like, "Damn, that book is in storage." Um, I might I might have I
That's
have
the damn story.
the damn storage. And, but I was like, that's Cassandra. And, there are very few, and I think it's complex. I think like 18th century stuff with, like, the marriage market and Jane Austen. It all sounds so nice because it's connected to, like, love, right? But the truth of what happens in the exchange of the woman's body in these moments of huge crisis, I think it's, like, actually quite powerful and cannot be resolved. It can't be resolved, right? Hollywood wants to resolve things, and we can't resolve that complexity. And so I think that's what I was thinking about as I watched The Odyssey, even as the movie does a really beautiful job of inserting the women in really powerful, interesting ways that I don't know if the play does that. But I still was like, no, there's another part of the story. And we see men go on these journeys as warriors for war all the time. Right? Like, even current ones, I don't know, Saving Private Ryan, right? Like, there's a
I
bunch
mean,
of, like,
all of them.
different. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's very few where you see, like, what's happening to women, right? Um,
And what's curious is often what's just been translated is women going on a hero's journey.
exactly. Or you think,
So
like, I was thinking about Mulan, and I was like, "Oh, but that's tricky."
it's tricky still,
Yeah.
right? Versus what you're talking about, which is we take something that is still fictional, let's say,
Mhm.
right? Like the mythology, but we look at it through the lens of women in the space of even what historically women have had to go through, which is we have been exchanged
Right,
our bodies, right, as commodity and the repercussions of that, both from a human standpoint, a society, economic standpoint, political standpoint, and the aftermath, specifically during certain times like war, which
right,
is when this happens so atrociously.
right.
And so that part is really interesting because, again, it's not something that most could digest very well, but
Yeah.
that is a woman's heroine's journey more than anything,
Right, right.
than a
Yeah,
replica of a man's journey fighting,
right,
finding redemption, and coming out on the other side of
right.
that.
Yeah, and I was telling my partner, I was like, the power of, like, the story, if they ever tell it, is that the woman claiming her power is actually the one navigating power dynamics in a way that leverage her ability to gain any kind of power, which is not going to ever look good to, like, our Western perspective of what women are supposed to be because, like, that's what they have, right? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I've been watching a lot of Korean dramas, right? And I'm really fascinated by Korean drama because, sometimes we can, from the Western culture, look at the way that women might be portrayed in, let's say, a Korean drama and say, they're so demure and they're so quiet and all this stuff. But if you look at the underlying context, they take passive aggressiveness to another level and they play the field in their strength of understanding how to hold space. Think strategically 20, 30 steps ahead, and then fine tune the movements of things, right? Quietly with grace, but also with kind of respect, right?
Mm,
And they might look and feel gentle or very passive aggressive, but because they're playing through like the hierarchical nature of the patriarchy. And I find it fascinating versus here, people might get really itchy and be like, just say the thing. Or just, step it up and just, stop being so, I don't know, so scared or whatnot. And it's not necessarily that. But I love what you're saying about this complex issue around you take what you have and you use it and leverage it to a way that serves you. And
mm,
yet in our society, even in our entrepreneurship, we we like totally cut that off for ourselves.
mhm. Mm, that's true. You make me also wonder too about, like, the shape shifting and how that's part of how they can navigate those spaces in that way, and knowing who needs what in order for them to get what they need, and then how information travels. Like, I remember I wrote this whole paper in grad school about, like, gossip and its importance in certain ages, right? Because women are the ones that communicate through gossip, right? And that's how, like, crucial information gets passed, actually. But other people are like, "Oh, that's gossip." I'm like, "Yeah, but, like, that's also survival because she would've gotten stuck with some rake in a room, and then she would have no prospects for for marriage, right?" But the gossip is what, right, supported her in being able to protect herself, right? So it's a really interesting also makes me wonder too, like, to what extent are they, as you were describing, like, the women in the Korean drama, like, to what extent are they, I don't know if it's manipulating, but, like, using men as pawns,
Yeah.
because I think that's a really interesting leverage of power that happens through gossip that I think only is feasible because of
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, this is so good.
yeah.
I'm gonna have us take this conversation and continue it elsewhere too, because I do find that there's something in what we're talking about at this moment that
Mhm,
I believe we can leverage in owning and embracing within ourselves as women midlife entrepreneurs, as space holders. Of course, not gossiping in a negative way of others. That's not what we're talking about here.
mhm.
But the idea of how do we move through systemic oppression and continue in ourselves, believe our ability to continue to grow and move pieces around, to leverage it for our own success and not limit ourselves in that.
Yeah, and how do we, like, reimagine? Because I think it's interesting I think some it's interesting to watch a field. I feel like as I've been in online entrepreneurship only for a few years, it's fascinating to see the language in regards to, like, pro marketing and all this other stuff, and I'm like, "But what does that entail?" And then, like, why why does it feel, like, difficult to inhabit a space in which you could speak in that way? What does it mean that I speak in that register when I sell versus that person? Yeah, because I had an observation once, and it was by a white man who was like, "Oh, I don't talk to students that way." And I was like, "You're a white man. I'm a woman of color talking to a man of color. He doesn't see it in the way that he sees it from you. He sees it from me as a way of like, oh, that woman cares. He sees it from you like it's a threat, right? Because the positionality is different. And also like the way I said it and what I'm actually invested in is different. And my overall social like ethic in the classroom is different than yours, right? And so I find that fascinating in like the realm of like what is it that we could claim and be okay with and not just have it be linked to a certain sense of like whiteness and like this is the way it's been done because they've done it this way. I'm like, but what if somebody else does it that same way? and yet they do something a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes me also wonder, as I continue to kinda grow into myself, how much energy it takes to feel, let's say, lowercase t triggered by some external force, and how much that creates a conversation that does nothing in regards to how I can focus on where my growth can be, right? All the noise prevents me from actually doing the thing. So if I'm looking
Mm.
at, well, look at the whiteness in the self-development industry. This is so effed up, and how are we going to change this, right? And it prevents me from actually showing up and doing the thing, then I've just now committed to being a part of the noise
Mhm.
and feeling all the dysregulation from that versus what you're saying, which is critical thinking, right? And discerning,
Yeah.
okay, wait a second,
Yeah.
when it comes from this lens, yeah, obviously that doesn't feel good to me. But how could it potentially feel good? Or when does it feel appropriate? Or when would I be like, yes, rock on to the person who exhibits those behaviors or those identifying factors? And so, yeah, I feel like right now I'm learning more about how to critically think and then take my ownerships and continue to do what I am here to do, instead of commit to the noise.
Yeah. And it's hard too, 'cause I wonder what your perspective is too as someone who, like, knows human design and to a certain level of depth that I don't. And I think there are some people here to challenge that, to have a voice to that, and I think what you're asking me to consider, which is what something I've been thinking about forever, it's like, I can do that. I've asked my guys, they're like, "You can do that, but that's not what you're here to do. Like, that's not your design. Your design is not to sit here and spend your time about how we're here to break down the patriarchy. Like, you are here, you're designed for this, right?" And I can talk about that, but, like, that's just not, and I think I've spent so long in institutions trying to figure out, like, how do I remind you that there are other people here who have different perspectives? And I'm like, "Oh, but I'm in a business now, I don't have to do all that. I don't have to spend my time that way per se."
Right.
And there are other ways, like what you're saying is, like, there are other ways you can do that in, like, the functioning and the systems and the way that you work with clients that actually makes a difference more so than taking part in the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like you said, there are those that are here to be disruptors or to take on this incredible role as social activists and change makers and law changes, right? And in that regards, honoring that as their medicine and path. And then looking at us and, for example, knowing what you believe in, the way that you are structuring your business,
Mhm.
or who is it that you're really here to serve, and the way that you show up for them, right? And so the women of color that enter into some of your spaces, we all relax into that. We don't have to talk
Mhm.
about why. We just kind of know what that looks like,
Mm.
feels like.
Yeah.
And then on the other side is the question for me around, as a human in a society, what are the avenues that I could help impact the change,
Right.
right? And for me, it's not the dissonance, it's what can I do? Who do I
Right.
call? Where do I put my money? Like,
Right.
that's what I'm more
Exactly.
interested in.
Right. Right. And I think that's the question of, like, what does activism really look like for you? Like,
Yeah,
what do you want it to look like? Because I think if we look at our businesses, to me, it feels like the business is like the hugest disruption I could create, right? If I'm committed to this and I'm committed to the mission of the well-being of women of color, when women who are so oppressed, right, don't even have sometimes money to do some of those things. Like, that is like, so it's not to say I'm not a social activist, it's just like, where is our entry into what we care about and how do we structure our businesses so that it feels like we're giving towards that, or we're spending time outside of the business giving towards the efforts that matter to us, right?
yeah. And that's a great place for all of us to consider, which is not only what is our own medicine, but what is the impact that we want to make. And that is, yes, through the lens of our medicine, but beyond that. And therefore, what is the construct and the foundation of our own business that's going to create the economic impact and the social impact? And sometimes for folks, they might not know what that means or where to start with that. And that's why, again, with us, this idea of gossip, but maybe it's not even just gossip, it's just conversation. It's how do we get women in the room or relay messages to one another so that we can be informed or ask the questions that we don't know or listen in on conversations so that we then realize that there was a question that you had, but you didn't know you had that question, right?
Mhm.
You only know that when you're in the room.
Yeah.
And so that part then helps us figure out, well, what kind of change do we want to make? Why is it so important? And you have your reasons. And for me, my reasons are I want women to be able to enter into a room and feel like they can belong in that room, to have conversations around things that they didn't even realize that they could have a conversation around. And then from that, continue to build, right? And so,
I think there's something special too about working with you where it's like, and you can stop me if you want me to, but, there's something special about, like, when I enter your space, it's just like a given. Um, I've I'm going to make money. And I don't know how to say like that. Not all spaces are built that way in the business realm. Like, I think there's, like, a level of belief that you hold, but there's also, like, this inevitability that's, like, in the energetic container that's like, "Yeah, no, this is what we do when we are of service." And we're in our gifts, like, our medicine is here to also replenish us so that we can live the lives that we're here to live, right? Um, and I think that that's a place from which I think you lead too, of, like, you can enter the room and you can claim for yourself what kind of business you want, because you also deserve to have a kind of life and business that feels good to, like, have in the world, you know?
yeah. And the question is, I find for myself all the time, what is the business I actually want?
That is the biggest question I have asked all the time. I continue to ask. Yeah.
Yeah,
There are
because
words I, like, label things in my Google Drive. I'm like, "Digital business," like and I talked to my friend yesterday who was, like, helping me out with something in the business, and I was like, "One of my tenants is, like, this is an online business," because I'm saving, like, my energy of in person for whatever that might be, and it's like, I forget that because 'cause I'm like, "No, but I could do this, and I could go here, and I could do this," and it's like, "No, like, what kind of business did I want? Why did I want it that way?" Yeah, yeah,
I think it's a really big question that will constantly evolve, right?
yeah.
I went from I really want a business with team because I love the team building and I love for me it was I love mentoring folks to continue to improve in their roles.
Mhm.
And then I got to a point where I was like, I love that and I love everyone, but also I'm exhausted because I don't have the capacity to constantly do that. And
Mm.
so then I'm now in a place of I want lean, just me, right? Me and some amazing AI agents that have guidelines and constraints and
Mhm.
specific ethics that are involved. And I feel joyous about that. But again, it's every single season, things will shift a little bit and the capacity we have for that. And so I love always asking ourselves that question because then the choices we make will be very specific to that.
Yeah, yeah.
But we've gotta be real with ourselves and think
I
about
know.
when
Yeah,
is it a projection from someone else?
yeah, and also, like, when you've taken that to be what you thought you wanted, and I think I spent so long looking for what I thought I wanted, and then I was like, "This is not what I wanted." And sometimes, like, I have to, like, tell people, like, sometimes you don't know shit until you do shit, and sometimes that gets to be part of the process too, like, I think that feels like the most loving thing I can do for myself is that sometimes I'm a generator, I don't know how I feel until I'm in something. I can't sit here and be like, "Oh, I think," I spent 10 years thinking this is gonna be great, and then it's, like, not great when I get there, and it's like, that gets to be okay. Because I said I think I wanted this, and now I get to consider something else and figure out for me, it's felt more like, how do I slow down to be like, how do I mimic whatever I think I want so I can see what parts of it feel like, so I can see if it's and how do I enjoy the process so even when I get there, I'm not annoyed
Yeah.
because I
Or
think that's the
also,
difficult yeah.
with you, the idea of, okay, if you continue to iterate and try it, you'll have a quicker way of navigating whether or not it's a yes or a no. So,
Mm.
do it more and then quickly pivot. And whereas I find a lot of people, they dream and dream, and then this dream because it becomes this exponential dream. And then you're like,
'Cause it's
"How is it
so
gonna
big.
start how is it gonna
Yeah.
start today, my friend?" Right?
Yeah.
And then once they get there, it's heartbreaking because 'cause they're like, "This is not what I dreamed it to actually be." Because they didn't actually ask people, they didn't do it, they didn't look at people that were already doing it to see what is the downfall of it.
Or what I also tell people is like, stick enough long stick with someone long enough as a mentor or coach so they can see you, right? So like there's a reason I renew to work with you. I don't have to explain things. You've seen me. You respect my journey as it's evolving, while also reminding me like, Raquel, like school about to start though. Like, what are we really doing here? You know? Um, and I think that's the beauty of hiring the right people or just having the right people around you. Because my partner does that. He's like, did you rest today? You always talk about how you rested, but you're not resting. So it's like you gotta find the right people who are gonna keep you of like, oh yeah, there goes my mirror. I'm forgetting the reflection again. Right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I find that that is one of the most loving things to have for yourself, right?
And
An
that's what it
investment
feels like to work
and
with you.
a
Sometimes it
loving.
feels
Yeah.
like this is the best kind of self-love because I don't have to explain anything. I don't have to feel bad if I don't do something. Because you're like, oh, you're
You don't
great,
have
you're
to feel
here.
bad if you've gone away to frolic and then you come
Right.
back,
Right,
like
right. None of it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
Mm.
Okay, so last question. How is your intuition speaking through you now, and has it changed from before?
Yeah, I think speaking through me now is like I'm trying not to get too attached to any offer in the business. It, which will then hopefully allow me to do what you just said, which is iterate faster so I can just move on. Because academia works at like a dinosaur slow pace and you commit to something for so long and it has this outcome that like it has taken me 4 years intuitively to be like, just do it and then let's go. Like, let's keep going. You don't have to wait till the end of the PhD to not feel good about this. Like, you just got to do it. And then that I think allows me to have the flexibility to iterate in a way that I don't when I'm like, no, this is the thing and this is the thing. And because I've been with you when I've had, like, another offer that I closed last year, and it was like that was so hard, and I was like, "Oh," so I put a lot into that, a lot of, like, not effort, but future casting, and that's what makes it hard to move. Because I think that's what people think, they're like, "Oh, you're just attached." I'm like, "Well, maybe I was" I don't love leaving people that I love, and the group that I had was so beautiful, but what made it hard was like, "No, this is my thing. Like, this is the thing." And it's like,
You tied
"No."
your identity to it.
Right, because it was part of my identity as a writer, right? Oh, I'm gonna guide other writers, and I'm like, oh no, this is the offer in the business. It's gonna be the thing, and I'm like, now I'm just like, I'm gonna change because I'm gonna do this for a few years, and then something else is gonna come in, and I have to honor that as part of my journey, rather than assuming what I've really been trained to do in education is like you pick a thing, you stick with it, and you stick with it until the end,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Do you find that there's a way that you see that translated in your everyday with intuition and iteration? Whether you have experienced it yet or maybe now you're feeling called to take a look at? Because you talked
Mhm.
about in your business, and intuition still follows us around in all sorts of areas. And so, if you're looking at it from the standpoint of business, we see that, right? The following, the iteration, the leaving behind the future casting of what you thought to now.
Mm.
Do you see any of that mirror in your life at this moment?
Yes, I'm living in a place that is not long term at all, and I usually have like a plan. There is no plan, folks. Like, there is some vision, I think, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, you can have a vision for what you think, but, like, usually, like, I'm a very, like, control freak plan. This is what we do. We're gonna say we're gonna do this. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know when this will all be paid off. I don't know. I just know this is it for right now, which is not a place I've been, like, ever, I don't think.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
feel the tension.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm in, like it's funny because how how energy works because you taught me how it works. But it's like, it's funny to be in this place and be in a smaller space physically and
Yes!
wonder where can I go to go expand my energy because it's too much. And it's like so funny because it feels so compressed. But I have a feeling it's because, it's gonna move. I just have to like stick with it long enough to not be too invested in like some future idea of something rather than like what's happening in the moment, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes for example, I went from bigger home to smaller and smaller apartments to then growth and growth, and it's curious because for me, I recognized that the shift meant that I could reset, and it gave me an opportunity to see because I didn't have all the things anymore. So it actually was very healthy for me.
Right.
I definitely did love my apartment, unlike potentially what you're feeling with yours at the moment.
I
I
mean,
just
give me another month.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just love that I did have everything in storage. I loved that we were able to, Eric and I, reconnect in this way because we had, like, a one-bedroom, tiny
Right.
apartment, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah.
there was those components, but it also helped us say, "Where do we wanna go? Like, what
Yep.
is our vision?"
Mhm.
Because we for sure don't wanna stay in this story
Right.
forever, and it was the first time, honestly, in our relationship that we began to vision together.
Ooh. Yeah, you remind me like we're in a bit of a tussle because I just wanna be out in the middle of nowhere, and he likes being close to the city. And so it feels like the one moment where I feel like I'm trying to honor what he needs, while also being like, we're gonna have to find some sort of compromise where I spend like 4 months away from here." Um, while also acknowledging, like, it has its perks to be closer to the city, right? Um, but yeah, it feels like one of the biggest tensions I think we've ever had about living because he's a different person up here. Like, "It's only been 3 weeks, Sora." And I'm looking at him like, "What you mean you can go for a walk? What you mean you gonna go" like, it's just like it's like we're on year 7, and it feels like a totally different human, in my life than when we lived in my other place where it's like, it took me a little bit more to get like, I was the one who went out and would do things, you know? So, so I love that. It gives
Yeah,
me hope that we can figure out what the middle ground is here. Yeah,
absolutely, and,
yeah,
when you say that about your partner, I also recognize, when we moved the first time that I knew that it was time for us to leave for my sake too,
me
but
too.
I also knew that this chapter was actually for him. And so in that partnership, rather than being like, what's the equal partnership? It was like, for the next couple of years, I'm curious because I believe this is going to create a trajectory for him that we don't even know what that is.
You are so
And it
loving and
did.
wonderful.
It did. It
I love that.
epically opened him
Uh,
up, including his career in ways that we did not ever expect. And then now that that's happening, right, we get to honor some of that completion of what he's learning. So his cycle isn't over yet, but I kind of acknowledge that. And
yeah,
so it's just a curious place of some of the pressure and tension and
yeah.
also recognizing it's not my time. And as an Aries, I want it always to be my time, but
I
it's
mean,
not
I'm
my
I'm a
time right now.
Scorpio. I always want it to be my time. Yes.
Yeah. So,
Mm,
like, business feels slower, like, everything feels a little bit more lagging in my area,
mhm,
and his is like, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, this is fascinating." But that means I have
mm,
some time and space to really love him up because
mm.
when I don't, we're not in this great frame. So yeah, so it's very humbling for me, who's always like, "Let me take control and do the thing for the family," you know?
Yes. I appreciate you sharing your story. That gives me a different perspective, um, because he is so positive about being here. He's like, "This is where we're gonna win," like, he's just so and I'm like, "I'm gonna let you hold that vision as I, like, feel like I'm constricting."
Is that what he said? "This is where we're gonna win?"
Oh, yeah, that's his phrase, his go-to phrase. You know Jonathan, he's very smooth. Go-to phrase, yeah. And he believes it, you could see it in him, and I'm like, "I'm gonna let you hold that."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just wonder, let him win. Let's see
yeah,
how that helps supports the family, you know?
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that is curious, very
yeah,
curious.
yeah, yeah, I appreciate you sharing your story, I needed to hear that, so,
Yeah,
yeah,
likewise, thank you for sharing
yeah,
so
yeah,
openly around what's going on.
yeah.
Okay, lastly, how can people find you?
Mm.
Tell people, I mean, every person should connect with you, so share all the things.
You can My website is up, you're welcome to go on there, reach out, trulyyoursalute.com. But I also have a yummy YouTube channel that I will give Sora to post because I may be going live more regularly on YouTube, and I have a ton of channeling videos on there. Um, and I've been loving the long form content, so that's where I'll be. I mean, I am on IG. If you send me a message, I check every day. I'll be there. If that's your jam, I'll say hi, send a voice note. But if you want to see like more current new content, it's on YouTube.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
YouTube, definitely go into your website and sign up for your newsletter
Hmm.
because your emails like today, people are missing out on that email. I read
Thank you
the
for
whole thing,
reading.
by the way, also,
What'd you
and
say?
I read the whole thing,
Oh, yeah,
and
I was like,
I
"Sora's
told you
really
the
reading my
one thing I
email."
really wanted to know, which was the book. What was it? Because you were so vague. I was like,
Uh-huh.
"I don't even know if she liked The Odyssey because she talked about one and needing a whole new post about it." Right? I was so curious. You kept me on my toes.
I'm glad because I can, go all pop culture. I'm like, "This is not cool." And then this is really awesome, and I'm like, "This is not the space for that." That's a Substack post for people who wanna hear about that, but
And we do. We
yeah,
absolutely do.
yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for
Thank
today.
you.
Those of you all that joined live, thank you so much. Please continue to place things in the chat. I see that you joined. I just didn't wanna name anyone in case you're, like, quietly wanting to view and watch. Also,
Mhm.
if any of you viewers that are part of my community desires to come on to have these types of chats, I'm so for it, so go ahead and email. And for the rest of you, remember, subscribe, come join me and sign up for Substack. Come onto Devoted Way by joining our list from soarshilling.com. And continue, please, to leave likes and comments because I do read them all and I try my hardest to respond. And so, yes. And let me know how today's session was and if you like this because we're doing it every week.
And this is like Sora's magic in medicine, like, she'll, like, reflect things to you, and this is her genius, so she has, I think, Lush Biz Academy, which she's not selling right now, but I'm gonna sell for her because she's fabulous, and this is what I do, and this is what she teaches me to do. So if you wanna learn more about how she helps people, just go to her website because she's awesome.
I love that. Because I was gonna say to everyone, not every single guest are a client of mine, but Raquel's, like, the most ideal client because she shares and reflects back my medicine, and she just invited you all to the thing that I have open doors to, which is
Yes,
Lush Business Academy.
it's a good time there. Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah,
and
yeah,
thank you so much for your incredible love note. I've been sitting with it because I wanna do it
yeah.
justice, but on
Mm.
Substack, you shared a note
Oh,
that
I
I
did.
basically just I sat with and I was in tears. I was like, that it was the
Oh,
day that I really needed a reminder, and you
mhm.
gave it to me, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're gonna make me cry,
Yeah.
and I worked really hard not to cry for you today because you always make me cry, but
I think it started at the beginning, right? I think it w
yes.
we were starting to get some tears in the
Yes,
beginning. Yes,
yes.
yes.
You know how I am, you know how it goes.
I know,
Yes,
I know.
yes,
Thank
but
you for showing up as you. Thank you,
thank
everyone,
you.
for joining, and we'll speak soon.
Alright, bye.
Bye.